Good. So today we're having the miracle of the scones or scones. I don't know how you're really meant to pronounce them. And if you notice, I have actual scones with jam and cream.
Oh, lovely.
But I bought the wrong cream. I have like this Philadelphia cream or something. It tastes like cheese, actually.
Yeah, Philadelphia cream cheese. It's delicious.
Right.
Mm.
So I have cream cheese scones,
But
they're okay. But it had French writing on the little tub of cream. It had fresh creme or something in French, like it was thing. And of course, a cup of tea. And so I have tea and scones, and I've had 2 scones already. But I wanted to do
that we had to wear fancy hats too. Vivian had a fancy hat.
Vivian, where's your fancy hat? I want to see it. That is a fancy hat. I feel like you should be standing outside Buckingham Palace with a rifle or something. Very good. John, you went in on it yesterday for scones, and Anthea, Bibiana, where's your scones?
No scones. I have sick child, but I have a tea with a perfect mug. Happy mind, happy life.
That'll do. Sick children love scones, you know. It's the best thing for them. Give them plenty of sugar and plenty of fat. That's what they need.
Mine has no fat in it and no sugar.
You aren't even eating scones. You're eating.
I am.
Chocolate.
No, I made it. I made it.
Really?
I mean,
you made?
I did. Well, I saw that Rosie said that she made it with spelt flour, and I was like, I have spelt flour. So it looks like a muffin.
You have choc chips or something. That's what I thought. It was a muffin.
And blueberries. I mean, I did my best.
Oh, blueberries.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wanted to do the scones and tea thing because tradition was something that came up for me in yesterday. Oh my God, I've had the worst night or the weirdest night. Anyway, I'll give you the rundown in a minute. But tradition was something that came through yesterday. Was to talk to you guys about tradition and ritual and stuff like that. And I thought it's all very English because I have an English heritage, and nothing more English in my book than scones and tea, or tea and scones. So I thought we'll get into it, because the one thing I really like to do is to shatter illusions. Bursting those bubbles, you know. It's like one of the things that you get when you're growing up. You always look forward to like Christmas and Easter and your birthday and all of these particular events that happen again and again on an annual basis. And perhaps you may even have some in your own life that happen on a weekly basis, like going to church or all of these sorts of things. And they're all very, very helpful and useful in concretizing the idea that I'm a body. But the thought system of a non-linear being, of a non-temporal being, is completely abstract. It doesn't have an association of traditions or customs or rituals or anything else like that. So there's a heritage-based identity framework that's in you that references these things in order to not celebrate the reason for the scones and tea and scones and whatever, anything like that, but to maintain the illusion of separation, which is what everything's for. Everything is to maintain the illusion of separation. So we set up all these rituals and traditions to try and justify who we are and what we're about. And we're all, you know, like we're all very, when you fly the flag, and patriotic, and every country's got their own flag. So, but we can't all be patriotic to everybody's flag. Everybody's flag is different. So we decided that I live in this country, therefore I'll be patriotic to this flag. and I'll abide by the customs and traditions of this country. And we don't even perceive that perhaps we have a choice. And then when something comes along to upset the status quo, we stand up on our soapbox and demand the restoration of our traditions and our beliefs and all of these sorts of things. I'm a person of this heritage, and I have these long line of ancestral traditions that verify my association with the world, and Native American Indian comes to mind, or Aboriginal, or like going right back into some of those very, very older peoples. And I'm not particularly up on Asian things like that, but every nationality, every race, every kind of peoples on the world has traditions, has rituals, and tea and scones is one of those ones that I actually quite enjoy. I used to take my daughter down to, we have a place called the Tea House, the Railway Tea House, which is about 10-minute drive down the road here. It's an old railway siding which has been moved, like an office, ticket office and everything. It's been moved onto this block of land in the middle of like almost a rainforest. And they do tea and scones, cake and all of that sort of thing. Very English and very nice. And it's something that I enjoy with my daughter. So when we're there, when she's here, we go together and we sit under the big trees and we have our tea and scones. And it's our tradition within the framework of a tradition, right? Because tea and scones is, to me, is symbolic of, I remember my aunties and my mum and that people, they would get together and someone would always bake cake or scones or whatever and tea. And it would be this kind of hub for an association of activities that verify the family unit or verify a particular day in the year and whatever. And I'm sure everybody has these sorts of things. You know, there's one particular food or an activity or something like that. So in looking at my story then, these things are incredibly helpful for unraveling the anchors and the tethers that I have to the world. So I look at the idea of tea and scones and it's like, well, it seems rather innocuous. How can tea and scones be anything that, you know, could hold any particular element of denial? In itself, not at all, because it's an illusion. But in my mind, the meaning I've given it tic-tac-toes to all sorts of different things, all my memories of my parents and their siblings and everybody else and cups of tea and whatever. Anything is a catalyst. But the things that are set up specifically to ritualize your life, the things that are set up specifically to put you into a framework of ongoing loyalty and allegiance and all of this stuff. I mean, I spent 6 years in the Navy, and one of the things in the Navy was, I mean, the Navy's steeped in traditions and steeped in rituals, you know, and I was in the color party doing the flag, and then on parade you have the yeomen that do the signals and signs and everything like that from the ship, from the bow of the ship, for all the people that are, you know, not on the parade ground and everything, to let everybody know all these things, you know, and even right down to the salute. So there's this whole historic kind of reference that pigeonholes you, right? Whether it's tea and scones or whether it's some sort of formal processing, that pigeonholes you as something, right? I'm a something because I participate in this. Like Highlanders in Scotland, you know, we have a specific tartan. It's like my family comes from the Clan MacLean, or we have an association with the Clan MacLean. And we come from the Cumberland region, you know, like I'm tracing my story back. We come from the border of England and Scotland, somewhere there in that sort of hilly ground there. And all of these things. And I remember there was a point in my life when I discovered that I suddenly set about researching the Cumberland region and the Clan MacLean. Where do I come from? Where is my heritage? And where is my family? You know, and then I found out that we have other associations in our family from the more Celtic, you know, down south into the southwest, where I was actually born, you know, and so it started to get a bit confusing. Where do I really fit in? And but all of these particular things. So I like the idea of tea and scones because it's the tip of an iceberg. Everything is the tip of an iceberg. In your own experience of yourself, you'll have all these traditions and you'll line up in the street and wave flags. You know, we have Anzac Day here, and we have, what's the other one? Armistice Day, which are war-related, you know, like war-related kind of celebration. They're not really a celebration, they're remembrances and things, but they tie everybody together as a community. Now, when you start to look at the falsity of your story, you have to include everything in, and you'll find that those things carry a deep-rooted generational sort of integration into your story that it seems like it's kind of hard to break away from, because there we go, lest we forget, John's got one, I've got something like that somewhere. I used to have the plaque from the HMAS Labium that I served on, and I haven't go and dig it out, it's in a box somewhere. But oh, there we are. Look, John does have scones, crumpets. And so you look at these things and it's like, all right, if I'm a child of God, if I'm spirit and there is no world and I'm just living in a dream, then all of these things that I've given a value to that I think define me actually keep me prisoner to my own ideas about what I think I am, rather than allowing me to go beyond that, right? So it's like the same thing when you go on an overseas holiday. When I went to Vanuatu, we were talking about Vanuatu briefly the other day, I had to get on a ship, right? One of those big cruise liner things that everybody goes on. It's kind of fun. And I had to leave Australia. I had to leave everything of Australia behind. I couldn't take my traditions. I couldn't take anything with me. And I had to go to Vanuatu. The only way I could enjoy Vanuatu was to be there in full presence. If I'm there trying to represent my traditions and my customs and my everything else, which is what colonialism has done over thousands of years, I'm missing the whole joy of engaging with the new, the moment, the everything that's been presented through that culture, through that traditions, through that whole thing. You know, I mean, that's just an example, but in our practice, we're going from this world. We're getting on a boat that leaves this world and we're awakening. We're having this experience. We're heading in towards this experience of going to a whole other continuum where no one's ever heard of Anzac Day. No one knows what an Anzac Day is. No one knows what a day is. Nobody has a concept of day and night or me and you. It's so alien to our thinking. Like the Course is preparing us in a certain sense not to judge these things. It's like I remember Ted used to say, when you get to heaven, right? Or eternity, when you get to eternity, don't try to tell everybody where you've been and what you've been doing. Just walk in and as if you blend in and just sort of don't say nothing, you know, like it's kind of funny. It's like you can't take it with you. All right. So one of the catalysts that I really love is traditions. I mean, I had to let go of Anzac Day. I still have a little Anzac Day was a big one for me because I was in the Navy and my dad was in the Air Force and the Army, and my grandfathers both, one in the Army and one in the Navy. And my grandfather in the Navy was in the Navy for 50 years, 25 in the Royal Marine and 25 in the Merchant Marine. And he joined when he was 14 years old during World War I, when ships were going from sail to steam, and he was on a steam-powered battleship. And so I have all these stories from my own association of traditions that validate historic references that in me seem to make up a credible story or a credible point of view for my position in life. What I should be for, what I shouldn't be for. Communism is bad, democracy is good. All of these sorts of things justified very carefully and very neatly and pigeonholed by all of my associations about everything. So rituals and traditions are something that they seem like almost celebratory, right, in nature. But when you see what they mask, when you see what they actually allude to, they become very helpful catalysts for undoing a whole bunch of storytelling that keeps me out of the here and the now, that keeps me out of my relationship with God, because they all exist in the past. Right? They all exist in the past, and I look forward to them in the future. And I'll make up a whole story and a whole kind of reference for them and live in the excitement of those things coming up. It's nearly Christmas, Santa Claus is coming, woo, and you get all excited when you're a little kid. You don't think anything of it because it's kind of joyous and happy and you're excited and everything like that. Seen rightly, those things keep me out of the moment, out of this moment here and now. So it's helpful to look at them. And I thought if we make some scones and tea and scones, it's like the actual, sometimes, you know, sometimes you'll be walking somewhere and you'll smell something and it'll trigger a memory and be like, oh, I haven't smelt that for ages. What is that smell? And you try and you reach back in your memories and you really, really dig deep to try and find it, because somewhere you have a reference of how nice that smell was, and it possibly aunties and uncles and whatever are represented there somewhere where you first smelt those flowers or that cooking or whatever it was, right, at somebody's house. So we have these triggers that are taste and sense, because our senses are everything, all right? In this world, our senses are everything: see, hear, smell, touch, taste. And they're incredibly useful. I mean, you know, we tend to become accustomed to the idea of simply looking for the opportunities to forgive based on how angry we get about things, or based on our relationships with people, right? This person pisses me off. That situation upsets me, right? But when you can see the subtle things as well that keep you perpetuating this idea in the background of your story, you know, they can be triggered off by smell and by taste and even touching things sometimes, you know, picking up a piece of rough coral at the beach and you'll be thinking, wow, I remember that beach in Greece, you know, I went to Santorini and the volcanic beach there feels a lot like this sand. And we have these stories about everything. And so whilst they might seem on the surface to just be simple happy holiday stories or festival stories or stories about solidarity and things like that, they still perpetuate the entirety, right? So our whole purpose is, I'm done with all my stories, right? However they show up, I'm done with them. I have no use for them anymore. Jesus has actually turned up in my life at this point in time and said to me, give up the world and follow me. Give up the world and follow me, right? Including all my stories, including my references for my historic references for my family and generational history and all of that sort of, it's all got to go. You can't take anything with you when you go, right? So sometimes when you have tea and scones or something like that, just the very taste of the scone, I think if I'd have had the right cream, it might have worked better. I have this Philadelphia cheese cream and it doesn't taste anything like the scones that I'm used to. I think I just voided that whole experience, you know. But sometimes you get those tastes and those smells and it triggers something in you and you see where it is that you want it, right? You see where it is that you actually want that association. It's like, oh my God, what was that smell? I want it. And your mind just tries to grasp at it. It seems to be in the distance. It's like, what was that smell? I just smelled it for a minute. And it's like in the Course with the forgotten song. So Jesus says, you know the song perfectly well, but the forgotten song is the song of heaven. And somewhere in your mind, you know it. And sometimes, and he has that reference there where he says, a little hint of melody, a little wisp of music or something like that. I forget exactly how he writes it, but reminds you of something you knew so well, so long ago. And you remembered the setting, how beautiful it was when you first heard that song, right? That's exactly how these things are. They're like just little triggers that activate memories that can go way, 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 way back. You know, so I wanted to do the tea and scones to see if we can do. I mean, just looking at them, they look pretty harmless, don't they? The teaching of tea and scones, but they're not harmless. They're not. They carry a demand for restitution of my integrity as far as the association I have with the world goes. So, but they're very good. So last night I had the weirdest night. I woke up at midnight. I went to bed at about 7:38. Woke up at midnight, couldn't sleep. And it's still uploading. I'm uploading the video to YouTube. I sat in the dark and made a video. And at the end of the video, I heard myself say something about my daughter, about the letting go of the association I have with my daughter as a family kind of thing going on. And I actually heard me say it, which is why the importance of teaching this, right? You teach what you need to learn. And I had a moment there at the end of the video, like we do when we're reading the 20-minute book, of releasing a whole bunch of stuff going on around the association I have with my daughter, family, and my offspring, and all of this sort of stuff. And the whole video leading up to it, I realized at the end, the whole video leading up to it was a perfect setup. It was a perfect scenario, as if somebody was narrating it, that guy, Morgan Freeman, with that sort of voice, and as if it was being narrated. And I was just this sort of voice box saying the words. And I got to the end and I caught myself trying to bypass, which is the common word people like to use these days, spiritually bypass the moment of healing, the moment of release. I could see it. I was talking about it. I heard myself talk about it. And then I wanted to try and express how I should release that rather than actually release it. And I sat still for a moment and had a moment of release. So I'm going to post that video up. And then I went back to bed and had the most incredible dreams, just free dreams. Like it was as if a huge chunk of memory space was freed up by that moment of release, right? And if you think of your mind as like a filing cabinet, right? And the filing cabinet of our lives is generally family, friends, job, hopes and aspirations, all these sorts of things. And we've got a file in there for everything, right? A lot of the files are interconnected, but the release of that in that moment seemed to free up a whole bunch of stuff. It was like, and when I went to sleep, I had these most mind-blowing out there dreams and visions and things going on in my head that were just, I don't even know what to do with it. There's really nothing to do with it particularly, but it was just really nice, So one of the things that happens when you let go of a bunch, pardon me, I've got hiccups now. When you let go of a bunch of stuff that does have a historic reference and it goes right back, family and how many lifetimes I've had kids and all of these sorts of things, like one little thing can connect to a whole bunch of stuff that you're completely unaware of, right? One thing in one file can interact with all these other files, and it's like dominoes. They just sort of fall over one after the other. And before you know it, you've got this incredibly peaceful place in your mind where perhaps you weren't even aware it was full of junk, right? Perhaps you weren't even aware of the expanse of the filing system that it was taking up, which is just this kind of inert, nothing files that really don't have any point other than to try and verify other files. And it was a really big, I won't say a shift, but it was a really big jump or a really big leap. And I expect over the next couple of days, that's going to keep going, like keep integrating. You usually find that when you have a really big moment, like a really deep seated release, that it takes a few days for things to sort of sort themselves out because we're in slow time here. All right, the miracle happens instantly. The shift happens instantly. But my awareness of it through my association takes time because I find myself in time and I can't, because my vibration doesn't vibrate here at the same speed as the miracle, which is why we need 365 lessons. It takes a minute to become aware of the grace of God in the situation that's being presented, right? But in the moment last night, I became aware of the grace of God suddenly coming into my mind. Like, you just feel grace. You just feel this kind of presence of, man. And I know I keep pointing to my head as if my mind is in here. It's not, but it's like there was this kind of sense of being cared for and sense of being uplifted and sense of being, it was just very beautiful. I haven't had that for quite a while. But, you know, there's lots of little things, but that was a deep one, you know, and I'd been looking at the idea of family and looking at the idea of all these things. And sometimes you think, well, I've let that go. I've healed that in my mind. And then something will trigger it to show you that you haven't really let it go. You haven't really healed it in your mind. You've just telling yourself that and using a bunch of spiritual concepts to try and convince yourself of the fact. But your emotions don't lie. You can't hide from your emotions. All of a sudden there's a twinge, there's a something there. And you're like, oh my God, I still actually have an attachment. Or I still actually have a whatever, you know, like a grievance or a judgment or something. So in the idea then of the waiting lounge or the departure lounge, right, where Jesus says, come and sit on the green grass and in front of the still waters and just wait here with me, which is a reference for, I mean, if you were born in the Holy Lands, all you've got around you is rock and rubble and gopher trees and things like that. There would be a great absence, I would imagine, of lush green grass and still waters, unless you, of course, at the River Jordan. But one of those references that I have for that is the grace of God. You know, the grace of God is that green grass. It is that still waters. It is that calm, beautiful place where it seems as if nothing could ever intrude on this space. Nothing can corrupt it. Nothing can destroy it. I can live in this space. I can live from this space. It's really beautiful. And nothing changes externally. There's no loss. There's no loss in the relinquishment of those associations. On this side of it, it seems like there possibly could be. What if I let go of the ideas about my daughter? What if I let go of all my ideas about my family and my friends? Where is that going to leave me? Into this kind of no man's land or whatever? But it doesn't. It doesn't. It kind of catapults you into a higher sense of self and puts you into a frame of reference where you're more concerned and more open to the family of man as a whole, in which those that you say you love are actually included, right? And the idea that I would have this kind of special love for my daughter or special love for my family and close friends and things like that, you realize that actually becomes the corruption of all your relationships, that it actually separates you out apart and keeps this division going. So it was very nice, despite the fact that it was at the middle of the night. It was Jesus never has a sense of timing. So, but and then after the release, when I went back to bed, I just collapsed in a heap. Like I think at the end of the video, I was yawning my head off, and all of a sudden, it's like wham! It hit me, and I was like, had to go straight back to bed. But it's nice, you know. But being honest with where you find yourself and looking at those triggers, looking at those emotional attachments and things. People often tell me in this, oh, my kids. I can't give up the world and follow Jesus because if I have to lay my body down or something like that, who's going to look after my kids? What about the welfare of this, that? It's like, man, you have to trust to the grace of God that, you know, by the grace of God, there go I, that everyone and everybody, everyone and everything has a part in the script that is perfect. And if you were to exit the world, or if you were to be sent off to war or whatever, you would have no choice but to have to trust that everything will be okay, right? It's not like you have a choice anyway. We think we do. We can try to set safeguards in place and all of these sorts of things, but it's hard work. It drives us into this worrying mess of a thing that we become by doing that. And there is a great liberty in just going, fuck it. I can't do anything with this. I've got to let it go. Because you realize that it's only eating you up. I've got to let it go. My children, our children are always the hardest ones. Progeny. Loin fruit, someone told me the other day. Boy, crotch fruit. No, that was it. Crotch fruit. What the hell? Ah, dear. Pretty good, the old scones. Viv, how are you today? I can't hear you. Let's have a chit chat.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Hi.
How are you feeling?
Okay. And I'm tracking on that feeling of being grounded.
Say again.
I am tracking on the feeling that I received about being grounded rather than rather than escaping. Yeah. Right.
It's good, isn't it?
It is.
You don't have to sit in it all day long, but when you're like putting aside some time to spend with God, some time to sit and talk to Jesus or whatever it is you're doing as your own devotion, it's like that's where you want to find yourself. Find that place. And we tend to think of our mind as something that's just this, I don't know, weird jellyfish-like thing, and we don't know that we have a conscious and a subconscious. We just seem to be operating within this kind of framework of thoughts. But when you start to realize that you feel a certain way by organizing your association in a certain way, you know, you can learn to detect when you're going astral, when you're up in the whee, when you're up in that sort of like, yes, hooray thing. And when you're really grounded and you kind of like, I don't want to say mature, but it's a lot like a maturity. It's a lot like I don't know how you'd say it. But anyway, you get what I'm trying to say. There's like, it feels earthy. It feels good. It feels like a deep-seated kind of sense of yourself. Like it's heavier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a good place to be. That's where you need to be. Tina, you need to be there too. That place where it's deeper, 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 deeper. Right. So Anthea, same thing. John, you could do a little bit more of the wee. Viviana, you're perfect. You're right there. You're right there in the middle. Everything's perfect. Good. I just wanted to check in with you because it's like sometimes you have a moment of realizing this whole other side of yourself. And at first, when we're in our meetings and everything, and you're kind of getting a little bit of coaching or a bit of guidance around it, whatever. And then sometimes when you're out of the meeting, it can seem a little daunting, right? It's like, what just happened? You know, it's like when you get your first tattoo, it's just sort of like, oh my God, my skin's never going to be the same, right? And there's this kind of moment of panic. So when you find one of these inner senses of self that is something you're not accustomed to, it's almost like being out of your own depth of water when you're learning to swim. So yeah. I just wanted to check in, make sure you were good.
I also noticed that it triggered a correction of a lot of things that happened in my life. So
Right.
that,
Yeah.
you
Good.
know, that I had done that so many times and thinking that I was going spirit and realizing that I just blew out of it instead. And
Right.
I just, you know, like it was like that domino thing that you suggested. You know, that one
Yeah.
moment just went bam, 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 bam. You go, ah,
That's it. It only takes one moment.
yeah,
It just
Yeah.
takes one moment. One little correction can just activate so much stuff.
yeah.
Right? But I was going to tell you something then. It just went. Doesn't matter. Whatever it was, it'll come back if it's meant to. So, Anthea, what's happening? Let's have a chit chat. Oh, Viv, have you got anything else or are you done?
Oh,
Is
may
there
I
anything
ask
else
a
you want?
question?
Yeah, go for it.
The spiritual idea of grounding triggered some research about grounding in the illusion, I guess, because you know, I told you about what I was going through, and in the research, grounding is also good for healing, and of course it's corporeal, it's physical, it's not what, you know, the course is talking about at all. And yet it seems like the course does give you, and the Holy Spirit does lead you to things that will kind of bring about moments of the happy dream. So I started looking into the idea of grounding, earthing, that sort of thing. And it seems to bring peace even on this non-level. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But
It's a good thing, you know, like one of the things that happens is you'll have a realization of things like that have happened earlier in your life where you see that, holy cow, every time I thought I was with the spirit, I was actually just going off on a tangent, you know, in some kind of astral thing, right? And it's like all of a sudden I'm nearly 60 years old or something, and I'm just realizing that my whole life I haven't actually been doing anything real, anything, right? But that's a good thing. It doesn't matter. Think of your life as an extension of hundreds of lifetimes, hundreds, right? Perhaps thousands. I don't know. It's like Jesus says, what's 10,000 years for they have come? It's like, well, 10,000 years worth of incarnations, let's say. Whether you believe in reincarnation or not, it doesn't matter. It's just as illusory as the world is. But if you look at your life as a continuation, at some point in the idea of all of those lifetimes as one idea or one experience of separation, there's going to be a penny drop moment like you had yesterday. Okay. There's going to be a penny drop moment that changes everything from that point on. It doesn't matter that in this lifetime you're 70 or 90 or 130 or whatever, you know, it doesn't matter. All that's occurring is the mind is like doing this, doing a little shift, a little something occurs in the mind and boop, everything changes, all the dominoes fall and it starts to operate differently. Right? That's what's meant to happen. Okay. Change is where we're at. Change is what we're looking for. Jesus doesn't particularly talk about being grounded in the course. It's the course is more a mind training manual, but it's very, very difficult to perceive any kind of integrity and honesty with things when you're in an astral state of mind, right? You can tell yourself things, but you don't really connect with it. You just believe that you're connecting with it. So when you're grounded, it's like if you kick your toe on a rock, you can't deny it hurts, right? That's about as grounded as you can get in the world. It doesn't matter what you were daydreaming about or thinking about or pretending was going on in there. All of a sudden you kick that toe and bam, you're brought right back into your body with the pain and the whole thing is like, wow, that's bad, right? That's about as honest as you can get in the world. Now, try to see everything as kicking your toe. right? Try to see every relationship in that frame of reference. I want to be that brutally honest with every relationship I have. I want to feel to that level with every relationship I have. I want to really be in touch with it and grounded with it, rather than sort of like, oh, it's a lovely day, isn't it? How's the weather? Blah, 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 blah. All this superficial crap that just really goes nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like, let me just be with you for a moment, and my heart to your heart tell you that I love you, or invite you to scones and tea or something, but from a place where I feel it, not because my astral self says, oh, I should catch up with someone for something, you know, and all of this sort of stuff. And so we have these kind of, I don't know if you'd call them compartments, where we sort of put ourselves, and the astral one is one where it seems very safe. We don't actually have to get in touch with things too much there. You know, we can walk around with our head in the clouds, kind of, you know, and I've spent many, many years doing that, not actually connecting with the moment, not actually connecting with our life, you know, telling ourselves we are, but not really experiencing, you know, like we kick that rock and we don't even feel it. It's like, hang on a minute. Yeah. That didn't hurt. Black toe, broken bone. That didn't hurt. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But life sometimes.
Right.
Life brought me to a really big, horrible, hurting rock. And that's where everything shifted. Yeah. And it's taken me a long time to, I don't know, even feel human again.
Whatever that is.
But yeah, whatever that is. But it was one of those moments that you just mentioned.
Right.
That just changes your whole life. You'll never be the same.
Yeah. It's like death.
It was.
Your whole life just flashes before your eyes as if it was nothing. Just like, what was that about? You know? But you have this kind of association with it. So you reel backwards, you know, like when you're reeling into something that's going on and you're trying to make sense of it. It's like you're trying to grasp at things, you know. It's like, don't do that. Just let it fall in a heap.
Yeah, I couldn't do that afterwards. I couldn't.
Right, good.
There was nothing to grasp. It was all gone.
Good. Good. Very good. All right, Anthea, was that a question actually? Were you going to ask me? But anyway, it doesn't matter. Anthea, what's going on there?
I've been a bit lost with the lessons this week, if I'm honest.
Good.
You know, I felt a bit depleted. You know, this sentence is sticking with me.
Which one?
Failure is all about you, while you seek for goals that cannot be achieved.
All right, sit up straight.
No one can fail who seeks to reach the truth.
Sit up straight.
I'm just not reaching the truth.
Sit up straight.
It's not happening. You know, so I do feel a bit pissed off about it.
Good. I want you to feel pissed off about it.
Yeah, but to the point where I feel like, you know, how long can I go for searching that I don't even know what I'm searching for?
Right. How long do you need to do that? How long is how long?
I've just, you know, I don't even know the answer to that. I just don't know the answer to anything.
Right. Good. Now stay in that place where you don't know the answer to anything. You're not going to like that place. Right? That place where you realize, I don't know the answer to anything.
I've been here for so long, Dave.
Good. Stay there. Stop adjusting to it. That's the place you ask for help. Here I am, Lord. Okay. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Failure is all around you while you seek for goals that cannot be attained. All right.
Yeah. So I feel like there's nothing left, you know.
Well, obviously there is something left. You're obviously just in denial of it. In the moment where there's nothing left, you'll find God. In the moment where there's nothing left, you'll disappear from the world. The prayer of the heart will automatically come from you. You'll find yourself on your knees in prayer. Failure is all around you while you seek for goals that cannot be attained.
Mm.
So whatever goals, I mean, obviously, if that's triggering you, if that's sitting with you, I mean, I've had things in the course that sit with me as well. So what am I seeking for that cannot be attained?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's obviously something, right? There's obviously something that you're not being honest with yourself about, or you wouldn't be reacting to it. If you weren't seeking for goals, if that made perfect sense to you and you weren't seeking for goals that couldn't be attained, you'd be right. You'd be on to the next chapter and the next thing that's sort of stuck in your craw.
Yeah, I'm really stuck there, and it's actually sort of held me back from going, like, the next few lessons. I can't seem to get past this lesson.
That's okay. That's good. Ask for help. Ask the Holy Spirit for help. And you'll know about the integrity and honesty of your asking for help by the help that you receive.
Well, this is the thing, Dave. You know, I feel like I'm being honest, but obviously I'm not. And I don't know what else I can do. You know, I just don't know.
Just sit in it. Just sit in it and sit with it. That frustration and that hopelessness and everything that you're feeling now, you're probably only looking at the tip of the iceberg. You need to get deeper. And I'm not saying go and get a knife out of the kitchen drawer and self-harm or anything like that. Try to be the observer of your state rather than interacting with it, but let yourself go deeper with it. Let yourself get more honest, because when you get more honest and more deeper and let yourself feel how that makes you feel to a deeper level, then the trigger or the catalyst for why that makes you feel that way is going to become more obvious. What do you really want? Right, so close your eyes for a second. Jesus walks past you and says, Anthea, give up the world and follow me. Right, what is there that you don't want to give up? God calls from the sky and says, Anthea, it's time to go.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready. You know, and then it just comes back to that I'm full of shit, and I just, you know, and here I still wait.
Right. So I would ask the Holy Spirit in prayer, where am I full of shit? Why am I triggered by this particular line? And then spend time listening. You may have to listen for like 10 or 15 minutes and you'll find that your mind wants to wander off this way or that way. Really focus on your listening. Be still and listen to the silence within you. Listen for the small voice, the still voice, to tell you what's going on. All right. The whole purpose of this is learning to hear the voice for God so you can receive inner direction, so you can receive information. Right? Everything happens through prayer. Everything. If you're not in prayer, which has got to come from your gratitude, if you're not in prayer, then you're simply looking at the idea of prayer. Right? Prayer is the medium of miracles. Prayer is the means of communication between the creator and the created. Right? God doesn't fail. Anthea does. In the moment where you want God more than anything, that'll be what you have. Until then, it's all self-deception, lies, bullshit, and illusions. Right? And the thing is that you've made these blocks, right? So if I put my finger here on my nose, I've made these blocks to the awareness of love's presence in me. I'm the one that did that, right? Now, it's up to me to seek for the blocks and find them, not to sit wondering about it and why it's all going on and how come I'm stuck on this lesson. Those things are just the preamble for getting you to actually hear, like I was telling you the story of when I was sitting up last night making the video, and I heard myself talk about my relationship with my daughter and tried to avoid the moment of actually healing it, actually letting it all go, right? That's what the mind does. You'll tell yourself, I'm triggered by this sentence, I'm triggered by this line, I'm in prayer, I'm doing all these things, but I'm obviously full of shit, right? Now, you can tell yourself, I'm obviously full of shit 1,000 times before you hear it once. You can sit here in a Zoom meeting, I'm obviously full of shit, I'm obviously full of shit, I'm obviously full of shit, I'm getting over this, I can't go to the next lesson, whatever. There's no need for you to go to the next lesson. Stay where you're at. Ask for help, right? But you may have to get to a deeper level with it before you actually hear yourself that you actually want to ask for help, right? Never underestimate the power of mind in denial. It's suspicious, vicious, cunning, and baffling. Okay, you'll tell yourself you're being honest 1,000 times before you realize how dishonest you actually are. Right? There is something you want that is not bringing you happiness, that you're trying to achieve, that's not going to bring you happiness, or failing to live up to whatever. There has to be, because that's the nature of everything anyway. The world is an idea of what I think I want in opposition to what I actually am. Even just to want one grain of sand, my next breath. There's a point in you, there's a place in you where you're done with it in its entirety. And the love of God is right there. You're looking at that idea. You're looking at that idea, but you're not connecting with that idea. It's still in the periphery somewhere. You're still associating it with a line in the course rather than a place you're at in your own mind. This line in the course that I can't get beyond. There's no need to get beyond it. One line in the course is the same as every line in the course. They're all telling you there is no world in one way or another. This is a doorway in front of you. This is a portal right in front of you right now. And but for the want of a little honesty, you could just walk straight through it. So whatever it takes, Anthea, you're learning to rekindle your relationship with God. You're reopening doors, you're repairing bridges that you've burnt, all these sorts of things. There's something you don't want to look at. Right? There's something in you don't want to look at, a repressed memory, some idea that's going on in the background that's blocking you from being able to get beyond this, blocking you from being able to see what's going on, right? Those blocks are what we're here to find. Now, it may be ugly. That process of finding it may be ugly. It may be horrible. It may be emotionally disturbing, all of these sorts of things. But that's why you have to do it with the Holy Spirit. That's why it has to happen miraculously. It's not going to happen by rereading that line again and again and again. It's not going to happen by sitting in a Zoom meeting, having me tell you, you have to defer the whole thing to the Holy Spirit. Right? It'll happen when you actually do defer it to the Holy Spirit and mean it. And I've spent many, many hours in prayer only to get up from those prayers and realize that I was full of shit. And then you get up from one prayer and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I meant that. You know it. You just know it through and through. You know that there was integrity. You know you couldn't have offered a more heartfelt prayer. Okay. So at this juncture, this is the whole thing the course is meant to bring up. It's meant to expose to you where your blocks are. You've found one. You're being triggered by this lesson. the trigger leads to the block.
Yeah, I think it's to do with feeling very lost. You know, I've always felt very lost.
Good. Feel lost, right? Somewhere that sense of feeling lost goes right back to the separation, because everything goes right back to the separation. There's Vinka. Somewhere that sense of feeling lost or abandoned or whatever it is, right? And you somewhere in your mind, you do know perfectly well what it is, but it goes right back to the moment of the idea of separation. You find yourself now within the framework of time and space, which exists as potential of the idea of separation. What could happen, what might happen, maybe something happened, did it happen, right? That's all potential. The fact is, yes, it happened, right? The fact of the fact is, no, it didn't actually ever really happen at all, right? But we're not in that level. We're in where things seem to be. We're like with Viv, right? We're getting grounded here. Let me feel where I actually think I am. Because until I'm dealing with things where I actually think I am, rather than trying to be lofty about it or anything like that, or astral about it, I can't connect with it. Right? You need to be able to connect with it where it is. It's like when I read The Fear of Redemption, right? This went on for probably 3 months. I would try to read The Fear of Redemption, right, which is one of the sections in the Blue Book, and I couldn't get past the first line, right? You must be willing to look upon your anger and realize its full extent, right? I didn't feel angry when I read that, but something in me wouldn't let me get past that line. And I kept, every time I would open the book, it would open at that page. Every time I would talk to somebody, it would be mentioned or something. It was just this orchestrated thing. And I knew I had to deal with my anger, right? Which at the time I wasn't feeling particularly angry. But because I'd suddenly become aware of the idea of, all right, let me look at my anger, I started to notice those little tiny twinges of anger around the peripheral where I would try to fob it off. Oh, that's okay. I'm here to forgive, rather than actually admit to myself, no, I'm fucking angry. Rather than being truly honest about it. And then not projecting my anger out, but just admitting to myself, no, I am actually angry. I'm an angry thing. I'm an angry, horrible, bloody angry mess. Right? Now, for you, your thing, you're looking at something that you can't get past. You're looking at a line. I can't tell you what meaning it has for you. You already know, right? But at some point, if you ask the Holy Spirit for help, you'll be shown where it goes. You'll be shown the full extent of what that means to you, right? It's not going to be pretty. It's going to take you to that place of feeling alone or feeling whatever, where it's at the max association with that. Does that make sense? Like the maximum feelings, like how that really makes you feel. Like imagine a little child, like 3, 4 years old, lost in a supermarket, you know, or in a shopping center, and they're screaming and yelling, "Mummy, mummy, where's my," you know, like that intensity of feeling lost. It's horrifying. It's really disturbing. It's really, really unsettling and all of that stuff. That emotional baggage is in all of us, because the first experience we had of pain, suffering, and everything else was the moment where we thought we were separate from our Father, right? Everything in this course is leading you back to that moment, back to that doorway, back to that portal that you think you came through to experience separation. Some of us are going bit by bit by bit by bit, taking a step here, looking at this idea of healing, that idea of healing. It's all healing. Some of us are like putting on our skis and our ski poles, and we're shooting down the slopes as fast as we can towards the inevitable moment of confrontation, right? I'm telling you, there's a moment of confrontation waiting to happen in you, but you're going to need to do it with guidance. You really need to pray. You really need to ask the Holy Spirit for guidance about it and to be with you throughout it as you undergo what it is that you're about to undergo. I'm telling you, it's only going to be a good thing, but you're not going to like it on this side. You're not going to be very happy about having to confront whatever it is that's going on in you on this side of the veil. But when you do make the confrontation, you'll be on the other side of the veil so fast you won't know what hit you. It'll be like the dominoes falling, and all of a sudden you'll be like, what the hell? This is incredible. You'll be jumping up and down, tea and scones. But right now you're going to go down that like spiral into that miserable, lonely, empty, alone place. Right? I can't help you with that. I can only tell you that there is help available. You're the one that's got to ask and you shall receive. Right? It's a leap of faith, Anthea. Whatever it is you've read it wouldn't matter what line it was that you read. It's triggered something in you. It's put something in you. It's activated something. Think of the course as like a sequence of codes. All of a sudden you read something and then bam, a light bulb goes on. You read something, bam, a light bulb doesn't go on or whatever. It's like this whole inner code that activates you genetically through, you know, like even atomically. I don't even know what is beyond that, but there's this whole thing. It's like you have an activation sequence in you that the course will trigger and activate. And all of a sudden you're looking at one of those sequences. You're looking at one of those activating moments and you're feeling a certain way about it, right? Don't stop there. That's not the healing. That's just you looking at it. I feel this, I feel that. Now do the work. Right? Go into it. Feel it. Let it happen. If it feels shit, so be it. If it feels empty and like a bottomless gulf of void, so be it. At some point, you've got to go into that. And it'll feel like getting sucked down the plug hole of a bathtub. You'll feel like you're getting sucked out of your mind, like you're going completely insane. Right? Which is why it's important to do it with the Holy Spirit. There's a threshold in every moment of healing. There's the idea of looking at the healing and then the actual healing. There's the idea of approaching a moment of forgiveness and then actually forgiving. Right? They're different things. They're part of a process, right? Because you're in a process, but they're different things. You can sit and read that lesson again and again and again and again, right? And then you can ask for help with it. I need help here. I see that I have something going on, right? It's only because you're still trying to work it out and white knuckling it, hanging on tight, that it's not flowing through you automatically right now, right? There's something in there, and it's like, we'll call it the separation, but if you wanted to look at it as past trauma or repressed trauma, the separation is the biggest idea of repressed trauma you're ever going to find, right? But in the world, because we have things that show up in symbols and in forms, everything's going to represent that in your childhood, in your past, whatever. You may have something that symbolically reminds you of how you felt in that moment of separation. And you don't want to feel it because it was terrifying. You don't want to look at it because you swore you would never look upon it ever again, right? And yet here you are sitting in your couch wondering why it's affecting you now. Which is actually a good place to be if you can see it that way. It's like, all right, I see I've got work to do. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Good. Remember, God goes with you everywhere you go. And there's nothing in me that isn't in you. The power of God in me is the same as the power of God in you. When you do this course, man, it gets ugly. There's bits in it that just like, oh my God, right? It's because it is a journey into fear, not away from it. It's a journey into fear, right? But you couldn't possibly be looking at whatever you're looking at unless you were ready, unless you had the power of presence of self within you to be able to look at it, right? It's like doing a bungee jump or something like that. There's a moment where you're standing on the edge with the rope tied to your ankles, and then there's the moment where you go, right? It's all part of doing a bungee jump, but until you actually go, you haven't done the bungee jump. All right? So this is the same thing. There's a moment of asking for help, and the help will be given, and it's the Holy Spirit that does the work, not Anthea, right? And then there's the moment of realizing I'm not asking for help yet. I'm standing here telling myself I'm asking for help, but I'm not actually asking for help. Right? It's like Vivian. I just realized that I had a whole lifetime of being in this kind of astral state of mind when anything affected me, and telling myself I was with the Spirit and not actually really being with the Spirit. It's like bypassing it, or just convincing yourself that, you know, never underestimate the power of mind in denial. Isn't that right, Vinka? You got your do-rag on as well. You and Tina. Tina has a do-rag and you have a do-rag. Are you good with that, Anthea? Yeah. And remember this too, right? So just because the lessons go one a day, it kind of sets up this sort of sense that you have to keep up with a one-a-day lesson. You don't. Okay. If you need to sit on this lesson for a month or a year or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Okay. If you need to sit with this. But the thing that I would tell you is this, and like take it or leave it, but don't try to put this aside and just keep going with the lessons, right? Because nothing else is going to proceed in a logical manner until you deal with this. Okay. It'll just be, you'll be trying to convince yourself, oh, I'll just keep going, because it's still going to be there and you'll know it. All right. It's better to step back from the whole thing, take a break if you don't think you're ready to confront whatever it is, or ready to look at it, or to feel, or to go into it, or to pray or whatever, to step back and really give yourself some time to put it in your head what it is that you need to do. You know, sometimes it's helpful. Let me just go and sit quietly and just think about this for a few days, right? Let me just sit with it and just see where I'm really at with it, rather than feeling like under pressure because I've got to go to my next Zoom meeting, or I'm under pressure because I've got to do my next lesson. All right. Don't put all that load on your shoulders. Just be gentle with yourself and let it happen organically, because it will. Okay. But it's more helpful if you're aware of what it is that you're about to face in a conscious way, in an aware sort of way, rather than still worrying about it. Okay. There's a point where all the worrying in the universe isn't going to do you any good, and you're going to realize that, and you're going to make that decision. All right, let me get on with this. Let me do this. I need to pray, right? Not because I say so, not because Jesus says so, but because you feel it in your heart. Right? This is a sacred journey. You got to think of it that way. It's sacred. Try to get a sense of sacred. Try to get a sense of the embodiment of what sacred means to you. This is not some pastime, 365 lessons. It's not some course of things that we just pick up, that we seem to stumble into. This is part of a sacred journey that we began long, long ago, before time actually began. This is a part of the journey of the soul, right? It's more beneficial that you make one small advance in an entire lifetime than to sit pretending, you know, doing all the spiritual stuff that you can. Like seeking but don't finding, seeking but not finding, right? Now it's time to seek and find. That's the realization that you're going to be looking at. It's time for me to find. Now, you may have to come up against that place many times before that actually really kicks in and before you really hear yourself with total integrity tell yourself that. Right? It's like when this video is uploaded, it's going to take a while because it's just on my phone. It's 47 minutes or something. It's one of my longer videos, but watch it and you'll see the bit at the end where I was talking about it and teaching about it. And you'll see the bit where I actually tried to get out of it. Right? I caught myself trying to get out of the moment of healing. Right? By attempting to maintain some idea of making a video as a spiritual teacher or something. Right? Making a presentation. Oh, I can't do my healing now. I'm in the middle of a presentation. When am I going to do it then? You know? Watch that video. It's the same action of mind that you'll have, but you have to realize it in you. You have to catch yourself doing it. Right? You've got the catalyst. You've seen the trigger. The catalyst is that sentence. The trigger is how it makes you feel. Right? Now, ask for help with it. This is your journey, your sacred path. Tea and scones. John, what's going on?
Well, it's a long story, but anyway, pretty much I think along the lines of what Anthony is suffering with. I'm only new in the game. I'm only on day 30 something. But listening to what you just said, I feel I don't know whether I'm on the right track to anywhere because I haven't seen anything. I'm not a man of faith, never have been. I don't believe it so that I can see it. I want to see it before I believe it. I know that's all the wrong way around, but that's what I am.
Yeah,
also,
that is the wrong way around.
Faking it till I make it. And it seems to me a lot of these things, you've got to go through those processes to convince yourself you're on the track. I listen to you and you tell me, and I listen to other teachers and they tell me that they have had an experience. And I have, in 65 years, never had an experience. I have never seen something. I have never seen, like you said, you walked over a hill and guys were walking up the hill and you saw the Christ in everyone's eyes. I've never had anything like that. Never had an experience like that. No download whatsoever. So I'm kind of like a bloke wandering around in the dark without a torch. I know that if I keep going, I'm going to get to the other end, but I don't know what the hell it is because I really don't have a gut feel. I don't have I mean, like the Christians will tell you, have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Other faiths will tell you all sorts of things, but they're actually looking at something. All I know is there's a word called love, and that is a consciousness, which is what we call God. So, but I'm not going to, it's not going to entering into a long debate over this now. I sort of sticking with my readings. I don't ever remember what I read the day before, an hour later. I don't remember what I've read. I have probably too many years of alcohol. I've been clean for 10 years, but I don't have a memory for what I read. So it's not like I walk away thinking about it. So I've got my problems, but I'm hanging in. And I just got to see how we go. But I just want that experience. That's what I want in life. If I have that experience, I will know that I honestly am working towards something that's not written in a book or somebody else telling me, because that's what I've had all my life. And I mean, I was in a religion for the first, for the first 16 years of my life. I was dragged there every week. And then I sort of went to churches on and off until I was in my early 40s. When I was 50, I then got involved in metaphysics and spirituality, and I've read a lot, learned a lot, and seen it, listened a lot, but still no meditation. People talk about meditation. Oh, I felt so good. I'm a hypnotherapist by trade. I mean, I have a qualification as a hypnotherapist. I can't even hypnotize myself. You hypnotize other people. You know what I'm saying? I just don't, I kind of hang out there running on everything I hear and what somebody else tells me. And I'm tired of it. I mean, I've been 60 years of people telling me this is what it is. This is what it should be. This is what you should be doing. But okay, I'm doing it, but it doesn't seem to make any difference. I don't get any, I've waffled enough. That's where I am. But I'm working on it.
So it's much the same situation as Anthea.
Pretty much. Yeah, I think we are very similar.
It's pretty much the human condition. The human, I'll see it when I believe it. But the truth is, you'll see it when you believe it. Not I'll see it if I'll believe it if I see it. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So they're telling me to believe it before I see it, really speaking. If I believe it, then I will see it.
Right. So when I was young,
I just find that hard to accept.
When I was young, before my enlightenment, I went through this period of divesting myself of the world. I didn't like the world as I saw it. I didn't like society. I was against everything. I was what you would call an angry young man. But I wasn't angry at things. I didn't feel angry in a sense about anything particularly. I just didn't want the world to be the way it was. And I made every effort I could to seek out a different kind of life for myself than what I saw as the mainstream life. And I got further and further away from civilization until finally I ended up in the Rainbow Tribe and grew big dreadlocks and the whole thing, and lived in a teepee. And that was about as far on the fringe as I could get. I couldn't get, unless I was to go off and become a hermit in the woods, right? I couldn't get further away from life than that. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was still, I take my mind with me wherever I go. I didn't realize at the time that I wasn't trying to escape society. I was trying to escape my own thoughts about society, right? So one of the things that happened in that divestiture period was that I would come up against these impasses, right? I want to go and live in the woods, but I've got a house and a mortgage and everything, right? I can't just walk away and leave it because I'll lose everything. And there was all these sorts of different concerns and considerations that were going on. And I realized that I had no faith. I realized that I was lacking in faith for what it was that I was telling myself I wanted to be about. I knew that there was no way I was capable of coming to my own conclusions about an alternative to my situation because I didn't know. I had no idea what I really wanted to be about. I just didn't want that. And so I started to make experiments with my faith. I would walk out of my front door of my house and I would hitch a lift to some place. I would have no money and I would just have to trust that I would get there and things would fall into place. I climbed a mountain and I spent the night on the mountain in faith that I would meet Jesus up there, and the next morning I did, right? But I sat there freezing cold, thinking I was going to die all night in the freezing cold, as an act of faith in my own mind, right? I made these little, I wouldn't really even call them pilgrimages, but I made these decisions, a series. I couldn't even tell you why I made them. It just dawned on me to want to do that, to want to find faith in me, and I was always rewarded. And every act of faith increased my faith and my enthusiasm about putting myself consciously and deliberately into an experiment with my faith next time so I could take a bigger leap, right? It's like my ideas of poverty and being poor. I had to take a leap of faith and sign a contract that was going to cost me a lot of money, even though I didn't know where that money would come from. that was a leap of faith. I did it as an act of faith, and I was rewarded. I got a job and everything. Like 3 days later, I was offered a job and covered the costs and everything like that. All these sorts of things were in my mind, all going on in this period where I'd read this Sermon on the Mount, by faith alone are you healed. Unless a man live by faith alone, he shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. Right? I wanted that. I knew that there was nobody I could ring to organize a leap of faith. I had to be about it. I had to be about it. It's not like you can dial a faith, right? I had to be about that. In those moments of faith, I was always supported somehow. Okay. Pretty much rarely, never in the way that I thought I would be supported. Always something miraculous and always better than I imagined actually would happen. But little by little, I began to understand that there was a higher power looking over me, that there was a universal consciousness that had my own best interests at heart if only I would trust and only I had faith, right? I became so solidified in my faith that I demanded to want to know the power that was supporting me. It wasn't just maybe there is or maybe there isn't. There was so much reward to my acts of faith given to me that I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was supported somehow by a power that I could not see with my eyes. And I wanted to know what that was. I was happy to call it God. I was happy to call it universal mind. It didn't matter to me what it was called. But I wanted to know what it was, right? Now, Jesus says, blessed is he who believes yet has not seen. At that stage, I believed, but I had not seen. I was like you, I'd seen nothing. But I had made every effort I could in my own mind to put myself in a position, like short of jumping off a cliff or something stupid like that, but to put myself in a position just of everyday need, of everyday occurrence, except for maybe climbing Mount Warning, but that was kind of extreme. But mostly just everyday circumstances where I didn't know how I was going to get through the day. And I'd made a decision not to try and organize getting through the day myself. I was going to leave it up to God, right? I believed, even though I had not seen. I came to believe in a power greater than myself because of acts of faith that I made. Little things that I did deliberately as a test of faith to see where I was at with my faith and my belief and all that sort of stuff. I was so rewarded that I could not deny that there was something going on in the universe that even though I couldn't put my finger on it, it was with me. It was supporting me. It was looking after me. Right? I couldn't deny it to such an extent that it brought me to the place where I wanted to know. I truly wanted to know. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're 16 or 65, no difference. A leap of faith is a leap of faith. If you're so resistant to the idea of taking a leap of faith with anything in your life, you're going to be sitting in that chair until the day you die. It'll be pointless. Walk out your front door. Take nothing with you. Bring one robe and follow me. That's what Jesus says. Bring one robe and follow me. Go from one end of the country to the other end of the country. Take nothing with you. Sleep in a ditch if you have to. Eat roadkill if you have to. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Something is going to occur and don't take my word for it, but something is going to occur in that action of mine where you're going to find yourself in a place where you can't go on. You don't know what to do and you leave it empty. That's going to be where you take a leap of faith, right? In our Western world especially, we're so comfortable. We've got everything we need. Why do we need God? We've got 3 meals a day. We've got a comfy bed, roof over our head. There's nothing difficult. We don't need faith. We just go out and work for $1. Go down the pension office, pick up our pension check. God's just a pastime. God's something people talk about. Other people have experiences of God. Right? You've got to want it. You've got to do whatever it takes. It's like make bold experiments. Make bold experiments with your faith, whatever it is. Throw the fucking course in the bin. I don't care. Throw the damn book away. This life is either going to be a daring adventure of faith or it's going to be nothing. This is either a relationship you're having with God or nothing at all. You're sitting on the sidelines. You're looking at the idea of it. How come other people and not me? You got to kick your own ass. You got to put yourself, you got to activate yourself in this. Read the Bible, read some of those old stories. Job, Jeremiah. Those guys have nothing at all. Only faith. You go to a third world country. You go to South America where they've got faith healers everywhere. They got nothing. They got no medical service. They got no hospitals and shit. They got faith. That's it. You're doing this to yourself, John.
Well, I say that I have no faith. I certainly don't have the kind of faith that people say you must have faith if you want it to happen. I've certainly done a lot of things in my life which, as you say, walk out the door. I mean, wife and I packed our bags and left for New Zealand 16 years ago. That was definitely a leap of faith. Came over here with nothing, no job, no bugger all. And
everything turned out fine.
God thing helping us all along. We've never gone hungry. We have been looked after. But to me, somebody coming in and giving me $10 because I know I don't have food in the house, or helping me out with fuel, or whatever the case is, that's not like an experience, a spiritual experience, and that's what I'm after. I'm very grateful for everything that it keeps me moving on a day-to-day basis. But when it comes to that spiritual experience, when I wake up, when I think of prayer, I want to feel like I'm praying to something that I maybe physically know. I don't know. I mean, I know God is not a thing. He's not a him or a her or a being. It's a consciousness. But I don't have that spiritual experience. I never have. When people, my own wife can see things. She doesn't do the course type stuff, but she has the spiritual attributes to, she knows when shit's coming. She's like the
and you have yours as well. You're just denying it.
And I don't hear it. I don't see it. Nothing comes and tells me that.
Yes, you do. You're just denying it.
Well, they say so. I don't know. Why would I deny it if I know it? Now and again, I have an intuitive.
Because you're in an experience of denial.
Yeah.
It's like there's a veil across your mind.
Yeah, right? that probably.
You're saying I've never had an experience like that because in your mind somewhere you've already set up a paradigm of what you think that experience could be.
Yes, you're right.
All your ideas of what you think a spiritual experience is are keeping you from having a spiritual experience.
Because my spiritual experience that I envisage is based on what people like yourself call them, or say I had.
So
that's the only ones I know of that are available.
Stop envisaging based on what I'm telling you and have your own experience.
Yeah.
Right. Some people see angels. Some people have direct union with God. Some people have all sorts of weird things, different dimensions, all sorts of crazy stuff, lights and sounds and all of these things. Don't try to decide what any of them are. Just like, here I am, God, here I am, right? You have faith every day when you get out and drive your car and you drive down the street and you have faith that the guy coming towards you in the other lane isn't a drunk driver, right? That's latent faith. It's like laying back there in your mind. You just sort of take it for granted, right? When you travel from one country to another, it's like, well, I don't have a choice. We're moving to New Zealand. I'll just have to trust that everything's going to work out and whatever like that. That's latent faith. It's just there. It's sort of like not faith. I'm trying to find God faith.
Yeah, no, exactly.
All right. You need to make an act of faith that is to find God. Like that has to be
faith.
That has to be its purpose.
Always. I wanted to either be able to let's use the word prophesize according to the Bible, or see into the future, or something that is
so let go of that want.
Something is not
let go of that idea. I've always wanted. Want implies the denial of the fact that you already have it within you now.
Well, if I believe what everybody says, yes, it should be, but it ain't showing itself.
Right, it is.
You said it, and then numerous others have said it. God spoke to me. He ain't never spoken to me.
Right.
My ears are not tuned. That's what I'm talking about. But to me, it's
you have eyes but don't see, and ears that don't hear.
Yeah. I'm not going on hearsay.
Right.
I want to make it love. Real. Should I say real, not love.
All I can tell you is this, John. It'll happen when you want it to happen. Until then, you're just talking about it. It'll happen when you want it to happen.
60 years.
It's like the bungee jump. You're standing there with the bungee cord around your ankles, but you haven't taken that jump. Right? Prayer is the medium of miracles. Jesus says, ask and you shall receive. Right? Now, where is it and what is it and how is it that you pray? I don't know. I know for me, and I know when I'm full of shit about that. 99 prayers I'm full of shit. 1 prayer I'm actually honest. 99 prayers I'm just on the surface. I'm just superficial. 1 prayer I have so much pain and crap going on that prayer couldn't be more honest if you squeeze me out like a rag full of water. Right? When you want God more than you want your next breath, you'll have an experience. Until then, you're just on the sidelines looking in. That's the human condition. We're looking, thinking about it, listening to other people, reading lots of books, investigating stuff, but not actually offering the prayer of the heart yet. It's like we need assurances. We need witnesses to the truth before finally we can hear ourselves tell ourselves, I need to pray. I need to find my Father. I need an experience that shows me the truth. Until then, you'll sit at one Zoom meeting after another with that story going on. Nothing's ever happened to me. I'm 65. My wife this, somebody else that. It's your turn now, John. It's your turn. You've got to hear you telling your story. Right? It's like that video I made last night. I heard myself try to get out of the moment of healing. If it wasn't for the discipline that I apply in my mind, like conscientiously every single day, right, I probably would have missed it. I would have bypassed it, and it would have had to come all the way around again, God knows when in the future. Right? Every single person on the planet is in the same boat. We need to teach what we need to hear. Right? I'm teaching what I need to learn. If love is what I want, I need to teach love. Jesus says, teach only love because that is what you are. Right? I can't do that until I know what love is. I can't know what love is until I purify my mind of all the bullshit going on here that prevents me from experiencing it. Right? But how long that takes and what that looks like, it's individual for everybody. I'm telling you, go climb that metaphorical mountain in your mind and sit there in prayer. I want an experience, Lord. Come hell or high water. When I was on the top of Mount Warning, it was very reasonable and possible to me as it got down to like 0 degrees and I only had day clothes on, that I was going to die of hyperventilation or whatever they call it, you know, the cold, freezing cold. Yeah. And not only that, it started to rain and I was saturated wet and frozen. But it was too dark for me to see my way down the mountain. It was too precarious. I would have slipped on the rocks and fell to my death. Right? I knew I was up there all night, whether I liked it, didn't like it, whatever, and I had to make the best of it. And I sat there the night in prayer. And the next morning I saw Jesus step out of the sun to me and said, take my hand, you know, go wherever you want, do whatever you want, just never let go of my hand. I knew that was Jesus, even though he appeared as a man in a shape of a man, as a being of sunlight beside the sun. I knew it was him. It was a vision. I had a vision, right? I heard the words in the back of my mind in this kind of silence. I can't explain it, a silent voice. You know, and everything else that went on that night, everything else that's happened, you know, that next morning, those 4 people that came up the mountain and sat there with me, none of them saw it except for me.
You had that experience, and nobody could ever change that.
That's right. Now your experience is waiting to happen.
Yeah, I don't have any of these indelible imprints in my mind, so everything is just
right.
Next day, one day.
Right, but how long do you want to stay with that story? I don't have. You either want to keep telling that story.
Day without it, quite honest. I've just never known how to do anything about it. I mean, you know, when you're a kid, you're taught to go to church if you want to. So you go to church, but you don't necessarily get it.
You see how you haven't heard a word I've said?
Yeah, I pray every day. I pray every single day.
No.
Yes.
No, you don't.
Okay, well, I pray what I've been taught to pray. Let's put it that way. I pray. I ask.
Right. So stop praying what you've been taught to pray and pray from the heart. Go and talk to your Father. Go and talk to your Father. Forget about what you've been told. Forget what I've said. Forget everything. Just you and God. You know, people that have been taught to pray in a certain way, God must, if God was judgmental, God would think they're insane. Why do my children keep coming up to me saying the same things over and over and over? Why don't they just talk to me like a normal person? Imagine if your children sat at your feet every day, Holy Father, bless me and bless the food and bless this and bless that. What happened to my kid? My kid's crazy. Have a real conversation. Have a real talk with your Father. Dad, I'm all fucked up. I need help. I've got this feeling in my heart where I'm tired of living a life without the love of God, without an experience of my oneness, without all this stuff. I'm done with it. Help. You got to get real with it, you know, but getting a human being to connect with that reality. It's like Vivian. Watch yesterday's thing where we went through this thing with Vivian. Vivian's all up here in her head about it. And in one moment, within a minute, she's like, boom, completely grounded, and all the dominoes are now falling in her world. All of the bullshit's starting to make sense. She's starting to see what she's been doing for so long, so that now she'll be able to hear herself and see herself and monitor herself when she goes back into those old, you know, if she's tempted to do that again. You're only 30 days into the course or whatever it is, or however long you've been doing this, but your process is no different than Vivian's process. We're all realizing our bullshit. We're all realizing our falsity, the illusions that we live by. And as soon as you open your mouth and say something, you know you're full of shit. Every word that proceeds from the mouth of man is a lie. You've been a liar from the beginning, and you're the son of a liar. That's Jesus. Perhaps not very comforting if you think that you're not a liar, but it's comforting when you realize, oh, he's giving me my whole way out.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I can't ever tell anyone how to get to that point. Anthea's getting close to that point, right? She looks like somebody stole her lollipop, but she's getting close to that point. Now, if she can see that somebody stealing a lollipop is actually beneficial and helpful to her, she won't be upset about someone stealing a lollipop. She'll just be able to do the work and deal with the results of that idea that someone stole something from her, and she's got this now void, this emptiness where the lollipop used to fulfill it. Okay? I don't know what it's going to take for any of you to push through those thresholds of personal healing that you have. But if you're not even looking at them, like John, you're looking at it right now. If you're not even looking at it, you can't even hope to lace up your boots and get on the field and go kick a goal, right? At least you're looking at it. That's a beginning. That's more than most people are out there trying to worry about how they're going to make $1 million, right? You're at least in the ballpark of salvation, looking at the idea, I want an experience. That's a good thing. Now you got to see where it is you don't want the experience. Now you got to see your own bullshit that's preventing you from having it. Right? All of those stories, all of those thoughts, I'm 65, other people have had it, all of that stuff. Right? That's what you use so you don't have to have the experience. Right? And the Course is telling you, you don't want the experience. You don't want God. The very first block is to get rid of peace. The very first block is to get rid of peace. You got to find that. I don't want peace. I don't want God. I don't want love as it is. I'm telling myself I do, but because my mind is split, because I'm experiencing myself in a domain of the appearance of separation from God, I'm telling myself one thing when in actual fact, the truth is the opposite. Right? That's the head fuck of this. That's where it really gets in your head and you're like, oh man, right? Which is why when Jesus says you've been a liar from the beginning, let him be right about that. It's like, all right, here I am, God. I'm probably full of shit. My prayers are probably just complete lies. I don't even know how to tell if I'm being honest or not, right? All my thoughts, everything's just like whatever it is. But in my heart, I feel I want an experience. In my heart, I'm longing. In my heart, I have this yearning to know, right? Which is why this is mind training. Get out of your head. Feel it in your heart. All those stories in your head that go around and around and around. We can live in our head forever like Vivian, or you can get into your heart. You can actually feel something, right? But because the very first thing you ever felt was the idea or the results of the idea of separation, which was terrifying, you don't want to go to that place again. We kind of live in this narrow band of consciousness, this thin place of normal that we call normal, where everything seems to be okay. And when we dabble in our spiritual things, we sort of push those bounds a little bit of what's normal, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. I'm telling you, you got to go down the rabbit hole with Alice all the way. You got to go right to the bottom, follow the white rabbit wherever it goes, no matter how batshit crazy it seems. Take those leaps of faith, realize that you are supported, and ask from that place of realizing that support for the witness to it. However that is for you. Think of it as an incredible journey. I'm on a journey of faith. I'm St. Francis of Assisi. I'm about to head off over the Andes, right? I want more, right? St. Francis had an experience of God during war, right? He was an Italian soldier that went off to fight in the wars, came back having had an experience of God on the battlefield, I guess because he fell to his knees in prayer for help, and was no good to anyone or anything other than but to look after the sick and the poor. That was it. Rebuilt himself a church, taught a whole people to live as Christ demanded or represented in the Gospels, and then got to a point in his own transition within himself where he realized that it was now time for him to actually meet God face to face, and went on a pilgrimage up and over I think it was the Andes. Is it the Andes he went over? Anyway, from Italy over to Spain, and received the stigmata, right? The wounds of Christ, hands, feet, side, and the whole 5 wounds, right? And later on died from those wounds. Now, that's a spiritual experience. Right? So when you say, I want a spiritual experience, not only do you have to be careful what you ask for, right? But you have to let it be guided, right? The Holy Spirit is within you. Ask for the Holy Spirit to come upon you to guide you through everything that needs to occur in accordance to God's plan, not John's plan, right? If that takes for you to make a bold experiment, a bold leap of faith, then so be it. I had to go climb a mountain to ask to see Jesus, to know that Jesus was real and to receive guidance. I could have sat in my lounge room. I could have sat in front of the TV and asked Jesus. But something within me knew that I had to put everything on the line, or I had to make some kind of effort, right, that was tangible to me in correlation with my ideas, I guess, of what I thought a devotional act might look like, right? And I'd read about in the Bible about prophets and other teachers climbing up mountains to talk to God. So that's what I did. To me, that was just the way I had to do it, right? To you, maybe it's something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. For everybody, we have our own catalysts. We have our own thing that we just feel within ourselves that we got to do. I got to do this. I knew I had to climb that mountain 2 years before I actually did it. I procrastinated and told myself one day I'd do it and one day I'd do it until finally I did it. Right. And I was prompted to do it because I'd mentioned it once to my next door neighbor, and they said to me, "Have you ever climbed that mountain that you were going to do?" And I said to him, "No, I haven't done it yet." And he goes, "I'll drive you up there this afternoon." Right. And he drove me up to the car park at the base of the mountain and dropped me off. And I'm like, "Yeah, I want to do it. I want to do it. I'm doing it." You know, and I was grateful for the lift. And that was it. But I knew I had to do it. It was something in me I just knew I had to do. Just the same as with each of you. There is something within you that if you listen to it, if you listen to that spirit, if you listen to that inner prompting, there's something you know you've got to do. When you know you've got to do it and you hear yourself actually say, "I know I've got to do it," is two different things. When you know you've got to do a bungee jump and you actually do the bungee jump, is two different things. Right? Ask and you shall receive.
Thank you. I certainly do, and I certainly will continue, and I will take into consideration exactly what you said. And I shall give you some feedback over the next 6 months or so.
Good. According to you, you'll immediately forget everything I've said because of
I'll
alcohol.
catch up on my wounds that you've given me now, bleeding like hell.
Right.
But, it was good. It's good.
Don't be like St. Francis.
Yeah. Yes.
St. Francis had all these incredible moments of faith and healing, and like animals would come to him, like gentle animals of the forest would come, and birds would land on him. People would write testimony. I was with St. Francis and birds came and landed on his shoulder, wild birds, you know, and deer would come out of the forest and lean up against him, things like that. There was all these stories of how his energy and his just how he was after he was transformed through whatever happened to him in war, changed him into a child of God in like the purest of forms. He denied the world in its entirety. You know? And then for some reason,
he's the bloke who convinced that king to, was he an Asian king, to change his attitude towards something?
Yeah, to throw all his jewels into the river.
He's a James Twyman loves that man, loves that saint.
Right.
Very much.
But at some point he had a moment of doubt where he wanted more, and like he wanted to be more helpful and more useful, and received the stigmata as like, which to me is like, you can't be more useful than you are. You know, and there's been a few examples of people throughout history that have received the stigmata, but always people of very great faith. You know, I mean, if you're going to lay your body aside anyway, if you're going to exit the vessel, I mean, it's a pretty incredible demonstration. But I don't know that I would particularly like to exit the building that way.
You don't want to test the illusion that much.
Yeah, no, that's right. But anyway, whatever it is, you know, the stigmata, a holy vision. You know, people go to Lourdes, where in France, you know, the healing waters, and get up and walk out of their wheelchairs and things like that. And it's like, it's not about the water. The water's the catalyst. The water, drinking from the water or putting themselves in the water, is simply that action of actually jumping with the bungee. You know, you say you're going to do it. You say you're going to take this pilgrimage and go and do this act of faith, and then you go and do it. Right? It's in the doing. It's in the doing, not in the talking, not in the thinking. It's in the doing. Listen, learn, and do. Listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit. learn to undo error, and then do something to correct it. Anyway, I think that's it for today. Anyone else got anything? Bibiana, you look great. I'm not even going to bother you with chit chat. Tina, you look great. Finker, you're blacked out. Oh, there you are. You're back again. What's going on with you? Are you still out there with the chickens and the roosters? And really? I still have a few scones left if you're around this way later. But all right.
You're muted.
All right. Ask and you shall receive. Ask and you shall receive. Right.
Dave.
The place. Who's that?
Tina.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like in the last three people that you sort of that I'm swirling in all of it you just said, and it feels I don't understand, and I don't know if that's the problem. What do you said this to me a couple of times, but I feel like I have any any understanding. I don't know how much more. When Vivian said that it just dropped, like she got it, like, and I'm like, I don't know what you guys are saying. I don't know. And I'm like, I guess I'm full of shit. But I don't know how much more. How more?
Oh, you'll ask that question for years.
But you're so specific. You're so specific, Dave. You're so specific. Right. And it's so general in my mind. It's just like, I feel like, seriously. Like I'm just dismissed. I feel dismissed. Okay, that's my relationship with God. Okay.
Right.
But I don't know. I just don't understand. I don't get it.
So ready?
Yes.
That thing with me and Vivian about the dominoes, and it just all goes bup, 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 bup.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to show you how you do get that. Are you ready? I'm going to show you where you do understand that. The rats. Okay? The rats. Look at that situation of the rats. One moment it was this, and then the next moment, bam, it was different. Get it?
Yeah.
Right. That's the same action. That's the same moment. Right? For Vivian, it looks like whatever that was with Vivian. For you, it was rats. You see how that happens in your mind.
I don't. It just happens.
Yeah, you do. You gave it to God. That fear, the story, everything about the rats, you made a decision about it. The rats would jump out at you from behind the corner, whatever, in the dirt there and the thing. And the next thing, that whole corner's been concreted over. The rats can't live there anymore. Now, you could say, oh, well, that was just a coincidence. But it was your story. Is it a coincidence or is it your mind? Right? Now, that's an opportunity for you to witness to something that's true for you in your own mind. I had a fear about the rats. The rats would always jump out at me from behind this place. And then somebody cemented the whole place over. Right? How did that happen? I was just talking to Dave about it the other day, about my fear of these rats. And then the next thing you know, boom. Right? How did that happen? Was there a concrete man listening at your window when we were talking? I doubt it. Was there something that happened that you step back and you go, what the hell? That's more like it.
It's just so
right?
general. I don't, okay. I don't know.
Right, let it be general. There's nothing wrong with general. You got your boots on, you're on the playing field. Vivian's journey is not your journey. It is in context.
I know, but I don't
But
understand. I just don't understand. It's just so like.
Good.
And then you said I'm not grounded. I'm like, how does that even mean? I'm just gonna pray. I'm just gonna pray. Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're doing fine. Don't look at not grounded as a general state of being. Look at it as a momentary thing. Right? At any tick of the clock, if you're honest with your thoughts, at any tick of the clock, you can have thoughts that you feel happy about and thoughts that you feel miserable about. The thoughts that you feel miserable about, you're naturally going to want to try and escape them. You'll go astral and you're not grounded. Okay? That's the human condition. That's what everybody does. What do I do with these thoughts? I don't like it. I'm going to push them way down so I don't have to look at them, or I'll just be up here in La La Land where I think everything's fine and I'll just kind of tell myself that it's all good. Right? These are all the mechanisms of the mind that we use, attack and defense mechanisms against ourselves to keep us in this place where we think that we're okay. Right? I'm telling you, you're okay because you're one with God. But that's got to be your experience. That's got to be your understanding. In the moment where you're looking at what I say to somebody else and it triggers you because you don't understand because I'm specific and you're general, that's a story you're making up and giving a meaning to. I'll make up a story about Dave and Vivian and I'll get all confused about it and I'll do this and I'll tell myself another story about where I'm at in relationship to that story. See what I mean? Right. When in actual fact, you know perfectly well that you're supported. Look at your avocado. Look at the rats. But it's the same story as everybody's story. You're going to have moments, you're going to have threshold moments where you see what you're doing in your own mind. You're standing on the end of the bungee, and then you're going to have to make a decision about what to do with it. I need the Holy Spirit here. I see that I'm constantly comparing myself to other people, constantly looking for validation of where I'm at. No one can validate you except for God. I can't, Vivian can't, the rats can't. There is nothing in the world that can tell you what you are. You're a child of God, even that. You know, you're a child of God. That's it. Now, live from that. The mind training. Use your mind training. My thoughts don't mean anything. my thoughts about this situation with Dave and Vivian. Doesn't mean anything. Nothing I see means anything. Right? Learn to bring yourself to peace. Then you can feel your heart. Then you can hear your heart. Then you can pray. If you're all up here trying to work it out, I'll just pray. You know what I'm saying? So look what you do. There'll be catalysts, there'll be triggers. I'm triggered again by this idea of validation. I'm triggered again by this idea of comparing myself to other people. Right? That may be somewhat upsetting. It may be whatever it is, but it's actually a good thing you see it. Right? It's actually positive. We tend to think of the downside or the ugly side of our healing as, oh no. But I see it as, oh yes, thank you. Look at that bad habit I've got. Look at that sneaky little bad habit jumping in there, and then look what it's doing to me. All my knickers are in a twist. I feel like throwing my avocado out the window. Right, exactly. Embrace your healing. Be grateful for it. Think of yourself as a crusader. It's like, all right, I'm going to uncover all my bullshit. Look at my need for validation. Look at my need for prioritizing where I think I'm at with things. What a piece of work I am. But you're no different, no more or less special than anyone else in the dream. In the dream, that's our coping mechanism, and God bless us all for that. In the dream, that's how we get by. But finally, we get to this place where we realize, I'm done with getting by. I want real. I know. It's insidious, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Right? Krishnamurti said, the very, very brave or the very, very stupid pursue enlightenment. It's one of my favorite quotes. I don't quote other teachers very often, but Krishnamurti was one of my, enlightenment is for the very, very brave or the very, very stupid. I don't know which one of those two I am. I like to think sometimes maybe I'm a bit of both. Sometimes I have moments of bravado and sometimes I'm just incredibly stupid. But somehow or another, I manage to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and I just keep going. And little by little, I'm led into every moment of healing I need to be led into. Every little reflection, every little look in the mirror at where I'm really at rather than, It's a good thing, Tina. Beware the demon of external validation. Beware. You ever seen that movie, The Labyrinth, with David Bowie? And they have the rocks, the giant stones with the faces on them, and in the labyrinth, and if you get lost and the rocks, they say, beware. And they have these kind of toming voices that if you don't listen, something bad's going to happen. But they're only there to spook you. Don't go that way. Don't listen to those thoughts in your head. Don't listen to those thoughts in your head. I don't get what Dave and Vivian are talking about. Why don't I get it? Let me get upset about that because I think that I should be advanced enough to, or whatever, I should know this stuff. Yeah, you should. This is the process of where you should, because you did. You're only remembering what you already know. Beware the demon of external validation. Sit with that for a while, just like Anthea's going to sit with her thing, just like John's going to sit with his thing. Sometimes you got to sit in shit for a minute.
Feels like a lifetime.
Sometimes you really, it's true. I've had to. Sometimes you got to really sit and look and look and look and look and give it a name. Sometimes you got to look in that mirror and go, what am I seeing there? What does this show me about myself? It's never pretty. No one likes to look in the mirror. Nobody, not even me. I don't like to look in the mirror. Beware. Just remember, you can do this because you did do this. Like God's promise in you is certain. Your understanding of that promise isn't really required. Your willingness to allow that promise to be fulfilled in you is. It's only the ego trying to understand. The Christ in you understands and knows everything perfectly because it knows that everything is just love. It's only the ego that wants to look at a situation and appraise it based against other situations. This is a journey into fear, a journey into the uglies, not away from it. There are ashrams and temples all around the world filled with people that are having wonderful, lovely times celebrating and worshipping and everything else. But there's only 6 or 7 mad bastards sitting on a Zoom meeting going into their actual shit, right? The way is hard and steep, and there are few found on the path. That's Jesus. Read it, the book of Matthew, the book of John, the book of Thomas. The way is hard and steep, and there are few found on the path. I'm with you in this. I'm totally with you. All you guys, I'm totally with you in this. Right? If I could reach into the screen and do this for you, I would. You have to do it yourself because you have to see the power of your own mind in action. This is your journey, your gift, your awakening. If awakening looked like smiles and giggles and laughter and, oh, aren't you wonderful all the time? That's not awakening. Go sit in a rehab center somewhere. That's awakening. Go watch guys trying to get off heroin. That's an awakening. Using those principles. Keep it simple, stupid. Put it in the fuck it bucket, one day at a time. All of these things. It's the same thing as the Course. The Course is perhaps a little more in depth than an AA or an NA meeting. But you're looking at stuff. You're looking at all of those things that bring you to every dark place. You're looking at all of those patterns of thinking that you fall into again and again and again, attempting to validate the external references. And you'll do that until finally you don't do it anymore. That's all I can tell you. Until finally you're sick and tired of doing that. I'm done with this. I don't need validation here. I don't need anyone to pat me on the back. I'm a child of God. When am I going to accept that? I don't need to understand what's being said to someone else. I don't need to know the meaning of everything that the Course says. All I need is to be still and know that I am God. That's it. You have one need to know your Father. Everything will bring you to that point again and again and again in the here and the now. You'll wander away, it'll bring you back. You'll wander away, it'll bring you back. One problem, one solution. It's good to find your shit. It's good to realize your falsity. Start to normalize that. Start to make it okay to find your crap. Let me look at my bullshit. I know it's going to be ugly. I know I'm not going to like doing that, but let me look at it anyway because I'm sick of how it makes me feel from not doing that. I'm sick of letting it run my life. I want to stand up and be an empowered, liberated being on earth as it is I am in the creation of the Lord. Your spirit, not flesh. Your spirit, not flesh. Stand up and represent it. All that other stuff that comes up, it's going to be the denial of your standing up and representing. Deal with it. Forgive yourself for it. Move on. All right. Peace and love. Peace and love.
Thank you.
Thank you. Peace and love. Goodbye.
I don't know if you remember, Tina, but you sort of touched on that last week as well.
Did I?
You did. You made some comment to the exact same sort of attitude last week as well. I don't think you heard yourself say it last week, though.
I heard it this week.
Right, good. Beware, beware.
Cheers.
Right. I love you. Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you.